Illinois won that game doing what Illinois does. And if you watched the first half, you had to feel pretty good. It's interesting. Before that game started, I was really confident Nebraska was going to win it. And obviously, the circumstances and the way it played out, my thoughts about halfway through that game started to change. But going into it, I thought, okay, Illinois is an okay football team. They're not great. They play sound football. They're going to make mistakes, which they did, just like I talked about the ones that they had made in that Indiana game that they lost. And Nebraska, if they had discipline, if they had the fan momentum, and if they were able to construct some offensive drives and get downfield, they would be able to keep it close. If you watch the first quarter, it started off slow for Nebraska, but the defense tightened up. The offense started to open it up. They had that long throw from Casey to Travis Vokolek. Nebraska's up 9-6 with the ball in hand. And then what we know to be true, which is the offensive line isn't always playing the most sound. They let someone blitz right through the middle. I think it was it was Henry Lutovsky who missed a block, I believe. Don't quote me on that. And Nebraska ends up giving up a sack that kind of a hit on the QB that leads to an interception. Obviously, that hit impacted the throw. And more importantly than that interception, because I'm not even that worried about that interception, it obviously gave Illinois some points and it screwed some momentum up. But it may very well have just ruined Nebraska's season. And you want me to tell you something positive. The defense played really well. For what it was worth, the defense was in some bad positions. They had no help from the offense. I think it was 5 minutes left in the second quarter, and then the third and the fourth quarter entirely. No help from the offense. And they still were able to hold Illinois' offense to some degree, right? They had that forced fumble, or I guess you can call it an Illinois error on that outside juke that Williams tried to make a juke on Newsome, and he ended up getting that ball back. And then there was a couple times when they had false starts. There were just multiple times when Nebraska, with a competent quarterback, not that Chubb is not competent, he's just not prepared, right? But with a guy who's ready to roll, would have been able to take advantage, and Nebraska would have been able to get some more points on the board. Ultimately, I think they would have been able to win the game. There were some comments I read on YouTube from Illinois fans, because they're all okay. So there's two types of Illinois fans. There's the realistic ones who understand that they're a good football team, but not elite top 10 in the country. And then you have the ones who think they are some crazy good team. Illinois is good, but they still have work to do if they're going to get to play against teams like Ohio State and Michigan and keep those games close, in my opinion. Illinois today was exactly what we thought they were, and Nebraska was, for the most part, what we thought they were. The defense actually came out better than I thought they would. And yeah, the Casey thing was debilitating. The Casey thing may very well have just put a dagger in our season, like I said. It hurt my heart during the game, but there was a point when where there was that point when Casey went out where I told myself, okay, I'm not going to turn it off yet. I'm going to give this next offense a chance. And yeah, Logan Smothers couldn't get it done. And the play calling was a little bit strange. They tried to run a zone read. I think it was Logan, and he didn't convert on a 3rd and 2. And it just hurt my heart so bad. I had to stand up and go for a walk. Couldn't watch the game because I knew it was over. Pretty much all of us knew it was over at that point if Casey wasn't going to come back in. And yeah, it was. Nebraska didn't score another point the entire time. I don't know what the second half yardage was, but what, 25 yards maybe, something like that, 30 yards, I don't know. It was nothing significant. In the first half, Nebraska with Casey had 172 yards passing. Anthony Grant had a 20-something yard run, I think. He had over 60 yards rushing total on the day, but I'm not sure how much of that came after Casey got hurt. Regardless, it was really tough to watch. It just sucked. It sucked knowing that we're not playing with our full team because you won't win a game like that. So congrats to Illinois, but you didn't beat Nebraska. You beat a crippled Nebraska, which is great. It's still a win. That's awesome. But it's not as fulfilling. It's whatever. Any team is going to beat Nebraska with no quarterback. I promise you that now. Unless by some miracle they come up with some game plan for Logan and Chubba and one of those two can throw the football, Nebraska has a chance to win another game. But without that, Nebraska just went from like number 60 nationally or number 75 nationally, somewhere in that range, to somewhere in the 100 range. They don't have an offense. And without an offense and with a defense who's already playing a little bit crippled, they're not going to win any games. So I promise you, it's the reality. So thank you, Evan, for the $10 super chat. I see it. That was the first one that came in. Was at the game. I felt there was definitely a shift in the atmosphere once Casey threw that pick and got injured. I know for a fact there was. People were texting me like crazy. They were all telling me, all the people who were saying, I feel like we're going to win this game. I feel like they have fight in them. They all changed their tune the moment he went out. And I did too. Hopefully he's okay. Man, I feel like it's going to be a broken hand or some nerve damage. There's going to be some issue that makes me feel like this is going to be a longer-term injury. Hopefully it's not, but yeah, hopefully. I'll always ride with my Huskers GBR for life. Yeah, man, I'm always riding for him too. And a lot of positive notes for the defense today. Anthony Grant, outside of his fumble, I felt like he ran pretty hard. The offensive line, you know, they had a couple moments where they blocked pretty well against the defensive line who's supposedly really good. I didn't see that today. But yeah, I think there were some positives to take away from this game, but not anything positive enough for me to be excited or happy, right? Just to kind of say, oh, well, it wasn't, you know, Nebraska's worst performance of all time, but yeah, it was tough to watch. Riley says Illinois showed up to watch Nebraska beat themselves. Yeah, and it was less about Nebraska beating themselves, right? Because that's not a fair assessment. Usually Nebraska does beat themselves. There are so many times when we watch the entire team as a whole break down and, you know, screw things up. Multiple penalties. Yeah, I say that, and then I think about Luke Reimer hitting the QB out of bounds for absolutely no reason, probably out of frustration, which I totally understand because he couldn't get off the field. The defense couldn't get off the field, and even when they did, they would be right back out there on it, right? Just not a fair situation for him, so really tough, and I totally understand the frustration. That one hurt. But yeah, the team didn't beat themselves. They were put in a position where they had no shot. It's like me saying, you and I are going to fight one-on-one, but I'm tying your hand behind your back. So you get to fight me one-on-one. No rules, but you have one arm. Is that really fair? No. So it's hard for me to say, oh, well, the entire team, you know, gave that game away. I think they were just one arm tied behind the back, and it is what it is, you know? It kind of sucks. So I can't, like, look at the team and say, oh, you guys are shit. You just lost to Illinois. You're so bad. Nah, it's not really that. It's you guys were put in a predicament, and there was no way you were going to get out of that hole. There was no way. I was hoping that maybe the backup quarterbacks would have a little bit more development, specifically be able to throw the ball downfield. I was actually surprised that Chubba couldn't throw. His decision-making was strange. The play calling obviously altered a bit. Who's getting the second reps in practice, right? Is it Chubba? Is it Logan? Either way, it's not enough reps. They're trying to really work Casey with these receivers. It's really tough getting thrown into the fire as a backup quarterback, especially given the circumstances of this season and all that's gone on to it. Already, you lose some staff. You have to change up your system a bit. Now on top of it, you're saying, okay, we're going to play the backup quarterback. Tough situation. Not fair. Let me get back to chat, guys. It was tough. Chubba threw like a 7th grader. Look, Chubba has not had a lot of opportunities. He hasn't played in very many games. I think the OU game and maybe came in for a play in Northwestern, something like that. He hasn't had much time to figure it out. And I don't know what the developmental plan is for him, or the development plan is for him with Whipple, and how much time he gets in practice. That's why it's hard to say, right? I can't put too much judgment on it. Is he a bad quarterback? I don't think so. I think there's obviously something in him that got him to where he is now. And he had some good throws when he was over at Florida State as a freshman. So I don't know. I think it's a tough situation. Here you go. Mickey even said during his press conference that the backups don't get reps during practice, which 100% makes sense. And we couldn't get the ball to Trey Palmer, which was something I assumed was going to be a little bit tougher. But I said if we could get some passes to some other guys. They got Vokalek for a 55-yard touchdown. They got Alante Brown a couple times. Alante, I just pulled this up for you to see. Alante had 2 catches for 47 yards. One went for 32. Brewington had 1 for 45 yards. Grant had 1 for 19. Ramir Johnson had 1. I think it was thrown behind him or it was dropped. One of the two. I can't remember exactly. But Ramir Johnson had a chance for a really big play. So there were a lot of other opportunities for other guys today to get open and get some reps because Trey Palmer was the guy who Illinois was focusing on. And their DBs weren't, to me, that was not like some elite DB room. That wasn't like, and people are going to say, oh, well, they held Nebraska to 9 points. I don't give a fuck. They held a Nebraska with their arm tied behind their back to 9 points. Anybody who comes at me and tries to say, I told you so, Illinois, get out of here. Illinois scored 26 points when they could have scored 45 on this team, this level of a Nebraska team, because this defense is crippled beyond belief. And that D still, I mean, they held Chase Brown to 150 yards. They gave up 179 yards passing, and they still held him to 26 points. Held him to like 3 or 4 field goals. So props to Nebraska's D, who has been down bad. Defense needs to get more turnovers, and offense needs to not give so many up. Okay, so first thing, offense for sure needs to not give so many up. Chuba giving 1 up was a problem. Casey's 2 were a problem, but even with Casey's 2, I think Nebraska still could have won that game. That second one by Casey wasn't his fault. That was the offensive line fault, or the offensive line's fault. They just left a wide open space right up the middle and allowed him to get drilled. Oh, that one was painful. You can't force too many turnovers against Illinois. They had one opportunity when Illinois shot themselves in the foot, and they literally fumbled the ball on a wide receiver screen pass. It was a short one, and they dropped it inside the red zone or around the 25-yard line, somewhere in there. Nebraska couldn't capitalize. With Casey Thompson, they obviously would have been able to. So, yeah, pretty painful. Illinois backed off. Yeah, Illinois wanted to win that game. They just ran clock. That's all they had to do. But they also were held multiple times by Nebraska's D. They multiple times Nebraska was stopping their runners at the line of scrimmage. So I totally understand what you're saying, and Illinois could have put on more yards, but Nebraska's D wasn't playing terribly. They weren't giving up runs the way they were giving up against Purdue. And part of the reason they were doing a lot better in the run game is because Luke Reimer was playing. He had a lot better game today. He had that one mistake where he hit the QB out of bounds. It didn't matter. The game was over, and he knew it. There was no offense. There was no way Nebraska could compete at that point. If you don't have an offense, you're never going to win. Nebraska actually would have been in a better position probably trying to punt it every time and just hope for some error by the punt team, or hope that they fumble, or hope that something happens with Illinois and they give the ball back to Nebraska in better field position. I don't know. Their offense it didn't exist after Casey went out. And that just shows you how important Casey Thompson is to this team. Even if you don't want to call him an elite quarterback, right? Let's say Casey's an average quarterback at best, like a 6th best guy in the Big Ten or 7th best in the Big Ten, which I think is where most people have him right now. Even if he's the 7th best quarterback in the Big Ten, that guy can score points. That guy can hit receivers. He can make plays happen. He can keep the game alive, right? Nebraska was up. Nebraska was winning with the ball in hand, even after Casey had thrown an interception. What's that say, man? Casey Thompson is crucial to this team, to this offense. Gary, thank you for the $20 super chat. Purdy, Smothers are freshmen looking at veterans. Purdy Smothers are freshmen looking at veterans, yet Illinois #1 defense, and he held their own despite coaching. Okay, I'm a little confused by reading it, but Illinois did have a really good defense. They play really sound, so it's hard for those 2 freshmen to come in and be able to compete with a D like that because they're fast. They're going to be on top of you, and it's going to be really hard to adjust quickly on the fly when you don't get as many reps as Casey Thompson does, or when you don't have your own game plan ready the way Casey Thompson has, especially against a team like this. So that's one thing that really held those two guys back. Maybe if they were playing a team with a worse defense, things would have gone better. But honestly, Illinois' defense looks the same as everybody else in the Big Ten to me. There's nobody in the Big Ten we're going to play with a defense who's much worse than Illinois. Purdue, I guess, but everybody's got a defense like that. So Purdue and Northwestern have the bad defenses of the Big Ten West. But everybody else is going to look like Illinois. Minnesota is probably going to look like Illinois. Iowa for sure will look like Illinois. And Wisconsin will for sure look like Illinois. So everybody we play is going to be up to that par. Just my opinion there. And yeah, the defense did not give up any big runs to Chase Brown. His longest run on the day was 21 yards. And I said in my preview video that I thought the offensive line would do enough to give Grant a chance to break off a 20-yarder, and he did. He broke off a 22-yarder. What sucked for Grant was he had another big run. It was a first down carry. I think a first down carry or near first down. Anyway, he wanted to fight so bad to get extra yards, and because we were in a situation where we didn't have a quarterback, he fought a little bit too hard and was loose with the football and lost the ball and gave it back to Illinois. Not that it mattered, because you had to take a chance. You had to make something happen. It was like when Tommy Hill returned the ball from the end zone. What were your options? Tommy Hill had to bring that out of the end zone, because if Nebraska wasn't going to score on a kick return, how were they going to score? Because it wasn't going to be the offense. Just a fact. Just is what it is. Tom says, awful display of football. Listen, Tom, let's be positive here. It was a good display of football up until we lost a key piece. And then the inevitable happened, and we were given a hand that you cannot overcome. So I don't even want to call it an awful display of football. The defense did enough to make me feel like they had worked hard, they were prepared, they played sound. The defense I was impressed with. The offense, outside of Casey Thompson getting hurt, and obviously the offensive line who's consistently been rough, I think they all had pretty good games. Alante Brown had some good catches. Trey Palmer was limited because he was getting double covered, or not double covered, but super focused with a safety over the top to make sure he didn't get loose. And then you had Anthony Grant, who was running pretty hard. And yeah, I felt like all the players had good individual effort. Travis Vokalek had a great pass, or a great receiving touchdown, which is like his longest of his career. Fantastic to finally see him get in there. So yeah, it was a horrible display of football on the surface, but if you're a real fan and if you watch the game, you understand the context, right? It's not like Nebraska just came out and shit the bed and wasn't prepared and didn't play good football. There was a situation that happened that forced them to be bad. It's a fact. Final record 3-9. No top coach will come here, and probably have to settle for 2 or 3 tier coach and no Coach Joseph. Okay, Tom, so your entire comment is just negative. Okay, so the final record being 3-9. If Casey Thompson doesn't come back, I think you're probably right, unfortunately. If Casey Thompson does come back, Nebraska's still going to win 1 or 2 games. It's a fact. This team's good enough to beat either Minnesota, Wisconsin, or Iowa, and probably beat 2 of those 3. It's just true. If he doesn't come back, yes, you're right. No top coach will come here. What? Do you know what this place is? Do you know how much money's involved? Do you know what resources they have at their disposal? And do you know how many coaches would die for this job? This comment is ignorant. This comment is probably a troll comment. And yeah, I'm laughing on the inside. Haha. Get into chat, guys. I'm here. McFly guy, Grant needed more than 12 carries. Whipple can't call a play besides throw it deep to Trey. I think you're not giving Whipple enough leniency here, because you've got to understand what he's working with on the offensive line. If you don't have an O-line that can run block, it's hard to give your running back the ball more. To be fair, Grant averaged, I think, 5 yards a carry, so I understand wanting to give him the ball more. Was it 5 yards a carry, or how many carries did he have? I think it was 5. I think he had like 12 carries. Anyway, the point is this. Oh yeah, you said it in your comment, 12 carries. So 12 for 60-ish, 5 yards a carry. He wanted to get him the ball, I'm sure, but it's hard to get him the ball when he doesn't have a line that can block for him. So I understand wanting to get it to him more. Illinois was on top of it. Once Casey went out, they knew they were going to run the ball. What are you going to do? Run the ball every single play and just allow the offensive line to get destroyed, allow Grant to get hit in the backfield multiple times? At some point, you've got to establish some downfield passing game. I get what you're saying, though. I get it. And I've felt that at points during the season. I just think you play to your strengths. And Nebraska's strengths have obviously been their quarterback and some extremely fast receivers and a couple tight ends because Chance Brewington's a stud too. So Brewington and Vokalek, who are really good. If you're gonna have those guys, you got to make sure you try to get them the ball. But I do wish they would have been able to get him some more touches. Yeah, Anthony Grant, I mean. Jay Swizzle, thank you for the $20 super chat. I appreciate you. All the support means a lot to me. Jay Swizzle says, my biggest question this year will be what if our O-line was good? Casey with time and these weapons and Anthony Grant with lanes, defense wouldn't even matter. Yeah, I think with an offensive line, this is a 9-win football team for sure. I think they would have beaten, well, if they wouldn't have had Scott Frost, they would have beaten Georgia Southern. But with no line, they would have beaten Georgia Southern. They would have won, I think, today. They would have beaten Northwestern. So, yeah, there's a lot of games that you can go back and look at, and you're like, with an O-line, this team could have been pretty deadly. Yeah, it's unfortunate because this group of guys will never be back here and on the same team again, so it sucks that we don't get to see it. And you can see what the vision was, right? You can see these coaches came together, they put all these pieces together, and they said, okay, we've got this plan, and here's how we're going to win 9 games this year, and this guy's going to do this, blah, blah, blah. And there was one unit that lacked, and they knew it lacked. They just didn't realize how bad and far behind they were, unfortunately. It's fun to fantasize about and talk about, like, oh, yeah, man, what if? But it's just, it sucks. We'll never see it. We'll never see it. Sports Studio says we need to spend $10 million on players this offseason. Yeah, if we just spend $10 million on an offensive and defensive line, I think that'd be massive. I think Nebraska would have a really good season next year if you get some of the best offensive and defensive linemen in the country. That'd be fantastic. SJB says, diehard Husker fan. Win, lose, or draw. I love to hear that. I'm the same way, brother. When Casey went out, I wanted to think our offense would recover. But after the Chuba interception, I knew it was over. Kudos to our D for playing hard. They did play hard. They played better than we expected, but they played better than we had hoped. I said in the preview video this was going to be a defensive battle. And, yeah, I thought it was a defensive battle. I think it was an unfair advantage, like I said before. And I keep harping on that. It was an unfair advantage. Because anybody who's going to come to my channel and try and troll me and say, I told you Illinois is so good, but get the fuck out of here. I don't care. You're a troll. You didn't watch the game. You click stats and watch it and say Nebraska sucks. I don't care. That's not the fact. That's not the reality of the situation. If you want to come and talk about football with someone like me who spends hours researching this, who spends hours watching it, who lives and breathes it, then talk to me with a good point. Talk to me with some stats and some things to back up your argument. Because that's all garbage talking. I don't want to hear it. I don't have time for it. You can pay me for my time if you want to talk about that bullshit. But yeah. Nebraska's defense played pretty decent. Jay Swizzle with the 20 again. Thank you for the super chat. Love your shit. Watch every video. Next time you're in Lincoln, beers are on me. We'll have to grab a cigar at Cigar Lounge in the Haymarket. Yes, sir. I like that idea. We got to do a meetup when I come for the Wisconsin game. I'm telling you, there's going to be a few people who want to smoke cigars. I'll be there for that. I'd love to meet you guys. You guys have been so supportive of this channel all season. You guys are going to love the content I've got coming this offseason because there's going to be so much positivity when we figure out all these new players coming in with recruiting, with the new coaching staff. There's going to be so many good things to talk about. We just got to get through this next month. One more month of being down bad at football, and then we can start to build on it, right? Get the building blocks out, put them down, and we can start to think, okay, what are the next steps? What's going to be positive? Where do we see hope, you know? Some of the things we talked about last offseason that didn't come to fruition now, unfortunately. Fly the Dove. This is an Illinois fan. I cannot wait to read what he says. This could be a troll. This might not be a troll. I have not read the comment yet, so let's find out. Illini fan here. That's how you say it. Illini fan here. You guys played us tough in the first half, but we've been a second half team all year. Illini D has only allowed 17 points in the second half. Totally agree. You guys have been tougher in the second half, but Nebraska's been a second half team as well. Illinois was gifted that second half. It's just a fact. I'm sure they do have good second half defense, but they were gifted the second half because Casey Thompson didn't play. Every Nebraska fan who I talked to was ready to turn the game off when he went out because we knew it was over. So I'm sure Illinois has a good second half team, but it wasn't a fair fight in the second half, unfortunately. So I would have loved to see if they would have been able to put up numbers like that against Nebraska with a quarterback, with someone who could operate, because Nebraska has a good second half team as well. I don't think they would have been shut up. I know for a fact Nebraska wouldn't have been shut out in the second half had they had their quarterback, because the second half adjustments have been fantastic all year. So, unfortunately, it is what it is. Congrats to Illinois. They're probably going to get to 9 wins now, which is amazing for them. And they're probably going to lose their defensive coordinator this year. So this is a good year to have a good defense before he's gone, because he's probably going to be a head coach is what it sounds like. So, whew. Sports Studio says there was a 5-star QB watching. Yes, sir. There was a 5-star QB watching named Dylan Raiola, and I talked about it in my live stream yesterday, and I'm going to say it again. Nebraska's not getting Dylan Raiola. Don't get your hopes up. The media might feed you BS. They might try to clickbait you. They might try to bring you in to make you feel like there's a chance because they know Nebraska fans will click anything. Don't fall for it. Dylan Raiola is Ohio State's coach, or Ohio State's quarterback, because Ohio State's coach isn't going anywhere. You never know. He could end up getting an NFL job. It just doesn't feel very likely. He's going to make way more money at Ohio State. He's going to have a crazy legacy there if he does stay. He could potentially win a national championship this year. Dylan Raiola is the perfect fit for their system, and Nebraska's in rebuild mode. Why would that quarterback come here to rebuild mode? That's what he's going to ask himself. It's just a fact, unfortunately. Husker Nation, thank you for the $10 super chat. I know we talked on Facebook today. I think that was you. I think so. I was there for the 97 national championship game against Tennessee. Husker fan for life. Just hope someday we can compete. Defense was decent today, but man, the O-line needs a shock to the heart. Yeah. Yep. I mean, it's just... Thanks for the $10 super chat. There's nothing I can say at this point. It's all been said, right? It is what it is, I think is the term I've used a few times. There's just nothing to say positive about the offensive line, unfortunately. And I don't want to bash them as individuals because I think they have a lot of potential to be good, or had a lot of potential to be good. Maybe they're like washed up now. Maybe something happened with their development. I know as much as you. I wish it was different. It's not. And it sucks. Jay Swizzle with another 20. Thank you, brother, for the super chat. Nebraska will turn this around with Mickey or someone else. Still love Mickey. The guys respond well to him. If it's a new guy, then trust Trev. We will get this fixed. GBMFR. I have a 100% confident bone in my body for Trev Alberts. And I've talked to some people about... People have these weird things about Trev, like, oh, well, he did this at UNO, and he made these weird decisions, and I don't know what he'll do. And no, I've talked to people about it. That guy bleeds Husker Red, and there's nothing more he wants than to get Nebraska back on track the way that we want to see it. And I know he's going to do right by this program. So I have a lot of faith that he's going to pick the right guy, and come 30-ish days from now, we're going to have our answer, and we'll get to start to focus on the positivity there. And if it's Mickey, fantastic. If it's not, then... Mickey's still going to be here anyway, so it'll be all good because we're going to be recruiting like crazy. I'm excited for it. Eagle Livewire, thanks for the $10. Preseason, I thought things would be way different than the way they've turned out. That being said, I still hold hope Nebraska will learn and grow. Watch out, Big Ten, GBR. Yep, we all had higher hopes this preseason. Obviously, the Scott Frost experiment that we had hoped would go better did not, and yeah, we are where we are. It is what it is. I don't know what to say. We've talked about it. It's a broken record at this point. Nebraska is what it is, and we've just got to hope that we can beat the weaker teams in our division, like the Illinois, like the Minnesotas, the Wisconsins, the Northwesterns, the Purdue, because we don't play anybody who's really good. We play a bunch of teams who are okay, and they're all going to be winnable games. And unfortunately, Nebraska just doesn't have enough potential, or Nebraska doesn't have enough talent to pull any of these wins. I think they have individual talent, but not talent as a team. Let me specify there, because I think you've got Trey Palmer's, right? And you've got Casey Thompson's and whoever on defense, Luke Reimer, Garrett Nelson. But as a team as a whole, it's just very average at best. And it's partly due to coaching, partly due to development, partly due to culture, and things are going to get turned around. It's just going to take a little bit longer than we had hoped. You know what I'm saying? Caleb, thank you for the $5 super chat. If anybody thinks that Trev won't get a top-notch top coach or will settle, then they don't know Trev. He's going top-notch. I hope that's true. I've heard some weird rumors saying that Trev's trying to put a budget together and say, oh, we're going to spend $3 million, and then they're going to be basically not deliverables. What's the right word? Benchmarks. And if the coach would hit those benchmarks, he can make all of his money. But no coach in his right mind would come to Nebraska if that was the case. That wouldn't make any sense at all, because other coaches are going to get guarantees. Other schools will say, oh, well, we're going to give you $50 million guaranteed, so get your ass over here. And that guy will say, yeah, 100%, and he will never even consider Nebraska. Hopefully those rumors aren't true, and I'm sure they aren't. I have a lot of faith that Trev's going to go and get the right guy. The money is not an issue. We've talked about that a couple times. Nintendo says Illinois legit top 25 team. Yeah, I think they're legit top 25 for sure. Legit top 15, arguable. Legit top 25, yes. Even legit top 20, they're pretty good. I just don't think they're great. I think they're good. I don't think they're great. So that's my opinion on them. I think they still make too many mistakes. They're not like an elite team. They have a lot of issues. They need to grow still. They're in their second year under this head coach. They've still got some things to clean up, but they're a good football team. They're a lot better than Nebraska is, even though I don't think they would have beaten Nebraska today with Casey Thompson healthy the entire way through. So that's my opinion. But I do think they would end up with more wins on the season because I think they have been more consistent than Nebraska has, right? But they were due to lose today, and I think they were at some point feeling like that was a possibility until they hurt our quarterback, and then things changed. Michael says, do you think Mickey will be asked to be OC next year after the turnaround and mentality this season? No, I don't. I think he stays as associate head coach, recruiting coordinator, wide receivers coach, whatever. I don't think you bring him on as OC when you're trying to develop a new team because he hasn't had the experience. You can't, in my opinion, you can't take the risk there. You need a guy who's got a plan all ready to go, and you keep him as a wide receivers coach. You pay him a lot of money, though, like OC type money, and to make sure he stays. And yeah, you have him coach receivers. My opinion, we'll see what happens. Not sure how it'll go down. Ryan, thank you for the $5 super chat. We always appreciate the support here. Special teams could have used a spark. Casey is the glue holding us together. Keep coach to get us a stacked team of backups who can all be number one on offense. Yeah, kind of sucks that we didn't have quarterback ready to go. If you had a quarterback who was just, Casey feels like if he's 100%, Chuba's at like 20%. If you had a quarterback who was at 60%, which is what I think most quarterbacks in the country are, backup quarterbacks, at the good schools, I think you win the game still, or have a chance to win the game at least. You can at least score points. Even if you threw the pick, you at least have a chance to move the ball up and down the field. Nebraska couldn't move the ball, period. They couldn't do anything in the second half. After Casey was out, they could not move the ball forward. They were done. They were one-dimensional. They looked timid. They didn't have the same play calling ability because they were limited with a quarterback who probably doesn't have as much knowledge of the offense as Casey does. So, yeah, just a tough situation. But it is what it is. I don't think this is true. Husker says Purdy, another Scott Frost mistake. I think Purdy's got a lot of potential. I just don't think Purdy is, he's in his first year. I think he's coming off an injury last year. I think he's got to get developed the right way, and he's got to have a chance to be a starter. He's been working as a backup, right? It's tough. And he played against a good defense today who played sound, right? He plays a sound defense who is disciplined, knows their assignments, isn't going to make any mistakes. He has a worse offensive line than he would hope for, and that's obviously holding him back. So those are all issues. Positive notes on the day if you rode the bets. So last night we had a preview show. Right now I'm up like 120. Let's see. Right now I'm up 125 on the day. Had a hot start this morning, went 5-1, then we lost some. Right now we've got UAB, Kentucky, and Baylor in action. So we'll see if we can hit those. If you guys want to take bets and join our Corn Crazed group on BroThrow, you can go to brothrow.com/GBR and it'll get you into our Corn Crazed group. So that's right here. We've got over 400 members in here, and you can bet on games, $1, $100, whatever you want. And yeah, I ended up losing on Nebraska today, which all of us lost to Nebraska today if you bet on them, I think that would have been a cover. Again, I think Nebraska probably could have won. So unfortunately, that one went the other way because of an injury, in my opinion. And we'll just have to see what happens with the rest of these. But I'm excited for some of the other games tonight, and I'm excited for some games tomorrow. But yeah, this Nebraska game just did not go our way. So unfortunate. Tyler says -7.5, easy money. Sorry about it. Yeah, I think it was easy money with a hurt quarterback, but that was not going to be easy money if Nebraska played at full strength. Unfortunately, Nebraska was beating them when they had a quarterback. So easy money, I don't think is the right word. I think you got lucky, and you should be happy that you got lucky, but not as easy money as you would have hoped. Donovan Raiola and Mike Dawson will be terminated on Sunday after the loss to Illinois. Yes or no? No. Mike Dawson didn't have many issues. Nebraska got to the quarterback a couple times. They were in the backfield. I think the D-line played pretty decent. Donovan Raiola, he's been given a tough hand. I think that's the way I'm going to say it. I don't know what to say without being mean because I don't know the facts of the situation. He's been given a tough hand. Who knows what the reality is? I don't think he's an elite offensive line coach because he hasn't made them better. But I also am not going to say he's a shitty offensive line coach because I don't know what circumstance he stepped into. I mean, I know what circumstance he stepped into. I just don't know how much this situation has held him back from making these guys better at all. So it is what it is. Trying to be positive towards Raiola. Love your enthusiasm, Connor. What are your thoughts on Whipple's play calling after Casey went down? It seems his aggressiveness took a nosedive. Yeah, I think what are you going to do? He couldn't be aggressive. He tried to be aggressive on a couple plays, and Casey or Chubba can't make the throws. So if Chubba can't make the throws, what are you going to do? And what are you going to do here? This could have easily gone for an interception. I mean, he had to run it up the middle to try and get in position to punt or get a field goal, whatever he's doing, because Nebraska's offense wasn't moving it. I wish there was an answer for Whipple, but I understand he had nothing. And I'm not saying that he needed or I'm not sorry. Let me rephrase this. I think that I wish Mark Whipple would have had a quarterback who was a little bit more prepared to handle his game plan when Casey went down. That's what I wish. I think he probably should have had a quarterback a little bit more prepared as well. But he didn't. So he knew he didn't, and that's why he was calling the game the way he was calling the game. It is what it is. Again, there's nothing he could do. He just had to accept it. Sucks. Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa still have 4 tough defenses to face this year. I'm concerned for Thompson if he comes back in this season. I honestly don't think he's coming back. I don't. I really think he's going to be done. If he does come back this season, yeah, it's going to be the same as every other defense we played this year. Nebraska hasn't had like easy defenses. They've all been relatively tough. The Big Ten West just has tougher guys on D. And it is what it is. But I don't think that any of these defenses I don't think any of these defenses are anything tougher than what we've already watched. Nebraska goes up against tough defenses every week, and none of them are so elite or so dominant. Like Georgia, for example. That's an elite defense. That would destroy Nebraska, in my opinion. I'd be nervous to go up against them. But all these, they're manageable to some degree. Mike says, love your show. I know you're high on Lane Kiffin, but why was he fired on the tarmac a few years back? Serious question. I just don't know. I assumed he was that terrible. Fired on the tarmac where? Where was he fired on the tarmac? I don't even remember what job that was. Remind me, because I don't remember. Yeah, so a bunch of Illinois fans texted me, Tyler, and they all said that Illinois is the more consistent team, but Illinois wouldn't have won today with Casey Thompson playing. I mean, you can say that I'm being a biased Husker fan. I totally disagree with that. If you watch the first half, the way the defense was playing, they were super strong. They had help from the offense, and the offense was able to move the ball downfield. Nebraska was in a position to keep that game tight the entire way through, and it would have probably been a 1-score win for either team at the very end. No one was going to blow each other out. That would have probably been a 3-point win for Illinois or a 3-point win for Nebraska. When you talk about who was clearly the better team, Yeah, Illinois was clearly a better team against Nebraska with no quarterback. I agree with that statement, but Illinois was not clearly a better team when Nebraska was healthy. You watched the same game I did. It wasn't like Nebraska got worn down. That never happened. Nebraska's defense was good the entire way through. This comment is, I totally disagree with this. Biased Husker fan. I have people who aren't Husker fans texting me all throughout the game laughing about how this is such a joke because it'll give people a false confidence that Illinois is a good football team or an elite football team. They are a good football team, but that they're an elite football team. They're not. I don't agree with that. But they're good. They're going to get to a bowl game. They're probably going to win 9 games. That's fantastic. They did it in a year when the Big Ten was down at its worst, or the Big Ten West was down in the gutter, the worst they've ever been, I think. But I disagree with your comment. That's ridiculous to me. Biased Husker fan. I'm not a biased Husker fan. I do research and I give you guys all of my ideas and I give you guys all of my opinions, but then I give you the statistical analysis behind it and I tell you why these things are actually true. So yeah, biased Husker fan. Oh, fired on the tarmac from USC like 10 years ago. That's what the question was about Kiffin. He was fired because USC was really bad. USC had elite recruits, and I think they had just come off a 10-win year, and then they were at like, what was it? 1-3. So if they were 1-3 after they had just had a 10-win year, things weren't adding up. He had Matt Barkley at quarterback, I believe. Yeah, he got fired for that reason, but that was a long time ago. Lane Kiffin's turned it around. He went to Alabama and fixed himself. Or I wouldn't say he fixed himself. I would say Nick Saban got him fixed. Nick Saban knew how to turn him into a good coach. That's funny. Yeah, but I don't want to take anything away from Illinois, right? I think Illinois is really good this year. They have a really good DC. Brett Bielema is awesome. I think they lack with their players because a lot of their players have their old cultural habits. They're not that disciplined. They had a lot of little issues today, and they've had them every week. That's a fact. Go back and look at all the penalties. Go back and look at all the fumbles, drop passes, missed tackles. They have little things that they miss on all the time. I did a bunch of research on this team. So Illinois has an elite coach on offense. I think a really good, in Brett Bielema, a really good coach on defense. And yeah, I think they're going to be a really good team in the future with the right recruits. But they're a good football team right now. There is no doubt about it. When I say elite team, I mean, are they Ohio State? Are they competing? Because 7-1, if you rank all the best 7-1 teams, I don't think they're one of the best 7-1 teams. I think there are other teams at 7-1 who would probably work them, you know? I don't know who we're talking to, but Mystic Ty says, I've said this before, kid. Who's kid in this scenario? Are we talking to me? Because I'm not kid. Nobody wants to play QB for the Huskers or will want to come to play wide receiver either because the Huskers can't block. Simple as that. They can't block right now because they have an offensive line who's been hurt by their past coaches. And they're going to recruit better in the future, and they're going to continue to get better on the offensive line because they're going to have better coaching. So I don't know if this is a troll comment, an ignorant comment, if you're just downright stupid. Um, I don't want to call you stupid, so I'm going to be nice and just stop it there. But I'm not kid. You're the one watching me, brother. You're the one watching me. You're the one spending your time talking to a bunch of Nebraska fans and watching me sit here and talk to you on YouTube. So one of us is the kid, but yeah, it's not me. Getting through comments, guys. Getting through comments. Nebraska has the worst wide receivers and running backs. Oh, sorry, not worst. I read the comment from above. Nebraska has the wide receivers and the running backs. Facts. I really like Nebraska's talent in the backfield and on the outside. Just need the blocking. Hard to get those in the portal. We'll need to hit the JUCOs hard. You know, Mickey has talked already about hitting the JUCOs for offensive linemen because they failed last year in the portal, unfortunately. There were some really good options out there in the portal last year for offensive linemen. Penn State got one of them. Michigan got one of them. LSU got one. Florida got one. But Nebraska just couldn't get one, unfortunately. So hopefully the JUCOs are better for them. That's probably the only answer right now, unless they can break open the bag and fire off some money their way. That would be fantastic. What do you think about the 48-0 Kansas State win over Oklahoma State? Okay, I didn't watch any of it. I saw maybe 2 highlights because I was watching the Nebraska game, of course. Shocked. That's the way I'm going to put it, because I thought that Oklahoma State would compete the entire way through. No way I thought that would be a 14-point win for either team. I thought that was going to be a battle. Both teams really wanted it. Both teams have been playing hard all year. Don't know what happened. I've got to watch it because that's, mind-boggling. I don't know where the defense was. I don't know where the offense was. That's a quarterback who's been Spencer Sanders, who's been really good all year and last year. It made 0 sense. So looking at the score, I'm confused. There's got to be something, right? It's like looking at the Nebraska-Illinois score. How did Nebraska lose by 17 to Illinois? Oh, their quarterback didn't play for the second half and the end of the second quarter. That makes sense, right? Because that Nebraska-Illinois should have been a 6-point game, right? That didn't make sense. So you guys have to tell me about Kansas State because I don't know. I have no clue. Wise Pine says, Illinois is executing the season we envisioned for NU this season. Correct. Easy schedule, strong D and run game, transfer QB who limits mistake. Bingo. That's exactly what they're doing. And they've done great at it. They have really good coaches over there. Really good coaches. But fortunately, the good defensive coordinator won't be there for much longer because he's going to end up somewhere else, so that'll help Nebraska. Whew. We won't have to lose to Illinois forever. I don't think there's any shot of this. I think this is a 0.00. No, I think it's a negative 15% chance. I think it's a negative 15% chance that Raiola would ever come to Nebraska. The only way it happens, number 1, Ryan Day has to leave Ohio State for the NFL. Number 2, the offensive line coach at Nebraska has to be fired, which is going to be awkward because once he gets fired, will that mean that Raiola wants to come to Nebraska since his uncle just got fired from there? I'm not sure. But he'd have to get fired, and they'd have to get a really good offensive line coach in. They would have to have an offensive line who was competent next year, and the team would have to win at least 9 games. So at least 9 wins, competent offensive line, Ryan Day fired from Ohio, or not fired, Ryan Day leaving Ohio State for the NFL. Those 3 things happen. Raiola, there's a chance. There is a chance. But it's very slim, unfortunately. And this comment right here from LSU is my opinion, my final opinion. He's a obvious first rounder if he goes to Ohio State. Will be a I'm trying to think if he'd be a Heisman. Likely be a Heisman contender. Probably would be. Probably win it. And he would for sure get to the playoff. So why would you not go to Ohio State when you have those things guaranteed? I mean, it's not like I'm saying this and he doesn't know it already. These are the things that Ohio State's selling him. I'm just telling you what the Ohio State coaching staff is selling him. And it works because it's true. Scott Frost go down to Tuscaloosa for Nick Saban as an offensive analyst at Alabama, yes or no? No, I think he'll go to the Pac-12. I don't know if people know that Raiola's little brother was on his visit today. His little brother is a freshman in high school. I think he plays quarterback too, but he just got offered by Nebraska, and today was his visit. So that's why both the brothers were in town. But Dylan wasn't on his own visit. He's already been on a visit, and yeah, we're not going to be able to get him. Oscar says, would have liked to see Ramir catch that ball and go the distance. I would have liked to see it too, bro. I would have loved to see it. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. And we're just going to have to hope that Casey Thompson comes back. Guys, I'm going to get back to watching football. Thank you guys for being here with me to talk about this loss. And that's my thought on it. So if you guys got some different opinions, you can let me know in the comments below after this video. But I tried to get to all your comments. I tried my best. There were a lot of them. Anyway, guys, thank you for being here. And I will see you in my next video. Hope you guys enjoy college football for the rest of the day. Peace out.